In our final week of coverage from Sandown's Shannons Nationals season opener, it's all about lightweight, nimble, open-top races that go just about as fast as possible. Today is all about the Australian Formula 3 Series and the Australian Sports Racer Series. Two championships with plenty on the line this year as drivers of all different levels try to prove themselves in some of the most difficult machinery around. Formula 3 is all about the stars at the pointy end, while Sports Racer showcases sports cars' diversity with all kinds of open-top competition. Hold on to your seat, this show will be super quick. Sandown Raceway, the scene of the opening round of the Shannons Nationals for 2016. Cam McConville alongside me for this. And Cam, the things with wings are back at the Shannons Nationals. The fastest racing cars in Australia are the cars from the Formula 3 Australian Drivers' Championship Racing. There's a host of new young drivers at the pointy end of the field getting set for the opening round of a brand new season. We love things with open wheelers, and there's some great new talent in the field as well. One of them is Chris Anthony, and he tells us a great story about his challenges getting here.
It's good to be back. The main focus was to go to Europe, but unfortunately we couldn't get the budget for Europe. We thought the best way to track this for a European step was to come into the Australian Formula 3 Championship, because these cars are pretty identical to the ones in Europe. I had 8 months out of the seat, not doing anything, no testing, and went over to Europe for the last 3 rounds of World Series by Renault. Very hard, very competitive. I was well underprepared, had no testing, so we did a bit of European racing, but it really shaped me into a better driver and to a more mature person. Going through lows like that, it really defined me as a person and made me a better driver today. So it taught me to man up and really take responsibility. And if I really wanted to do well, I had to study and I had to look at data and I had to work really close to my engineer. So I feel it made me a better person, a more mature driver. I think it's going to take a lot of commitment and a lot of just willpower and knowing that these guys are really, really quick. It's gonna take a big effort, but yeah, I think I can do it. I think, in order to win, we've got to work together as a team, and which we do really well, and so we've got a good chance with a very good car. I'm looking to win the title, and yeah, that's the goal.
Great to have the young man from Cooma back in the championship this year. Chris Anthony returns from a couple of races in Europe last year. He's hooked up with McDonald's Gilmore Racing. So this race, a reverse of the top 4 from the race 1 result on Saturday, which means the double champion Tim Macro will start this one from 3rd place with Chris Anthony alongside Trent Shervington and Nathan Kumar on the front row of the grid. Cam McConville alongside me. Open wheelers and Sandown, it just works at this place, doesn't it?
It certainly does. A lot of smoke just on the limiter there off the line towards the back. So a very slow start off the front row of the grid. Yeah, that was Shervington in the McGale. That's the 2014 championship winner that Simon Hodge raced. He's recently purchased that car. Good start from Macro. The Alpine Motorsport Dallara following Chris Anthony into turn 1. So good start from Macro and Anthony as well. Young Cameron Shields in the second of the McDonald's cars got away well. And that's a big off for Trent Shervington. Just avoids belting the wall.
Trent did a day down at Phillip Island recently just to dial back into this car, run by Team BRM out of South Australia. A massive amount of open wheeler experience. And of course Porsche Carrera Cup. So he's going to have to do it all the way back, or second last. And as you mentioned at the top, Richard, it is good to see Chris Anthony back in Australia. So very, very quick, very fit driver, leading the way with the experienced Tim Macro right up behind him.
And this is the youngster from Mackay in Far North Queensland, Roland Legg, in the Artec Dallara, just following the 2 leaders. So good start from him. Unfortunately, he and Cameron Shields came together, which was sort of a worst nightmare scenario for all involved in race 1. Ended up buried off the side of the road at Dandenong Road. These cars carry so much speed, Cam, with all the aero over that rise through turn 6 and 7 and the change of direction at the back of the circuit. These cars make slow corners look fast. They've got so much grip, and the line is pretty narrow sometimes, isn't it, between keeping it on the black stuff and firing it off.
It It is, and very bumpy too, so you'll see them just moving around, occasionally being in what you might think is the untraditional part of the road, just trying to avoid the bumps in these cars with a lot of downforce, particularly up, and a lot of toe. Slipstream, look at Macro now, he pulls up right around the outside. Oh, tight for room. Chris Anthony might have just moved over slightly to the right. That could have been an aeroplane if they touched wheels there.
And on the new Kumo tyre, they're flat as they turn in at the top of 6. This is a look at the start from Chris Anthony. That's just about as perfect a Formula 3 start as you'll get. Just used a bit of toe from Nathan Kumar, second-year driver, then put the thing on the yellow line to cover off Macro and Roland Legg. Very, very nice start. So got himself in front. He's down at the Alpine team before the start of this, and they were winding all the rear wing out of Tim Macro's car to try and give it some straight line speed, and I think we saw that, but on that shot it looks like it is actually carrying a little bit more aero than the two cars around it. The later model Dalara's first and third in the race, certainly trimmed out, looking to go fast, and Cam, as you know, Sandown, so much about maximising the long straights here.
Yeah, it is, and the TV doesn't do it justice up over the top there, just how committed they are on the throttle, and as you mentioned, turning in 6th gear, full throttle. In fact, where they're braking down here, it's just enough time to get the downshift in, which is a sequential, not a paddle. You can see Tim's right hand going off the wheel, doing the manual downshifting, but only just in time to get back 3 gears, particularly down here, down the end of the front straight at Sandown. So 6th back to 3rd. You'll see right hand here, back 3 gears there, and then straight back on the throttle.
And turn 1, deceptively fast corner in one of these cars too. Great to watch an aero car work through there. This is a racetrack with so much history in wings and slicks racing. Speaking of watching the cars work, Super Slow-Mo will show us that as they turn in. That bump in the surface transition there on the braking zone, and then that's corner exit, looking down towards that all too crucial chicane, elevation change. It's a classic racetrack, Sandown. And Chris Anthony doing a very good job holding off 2 very fast drivers. And the car's just quick enough in a straight line to be able to defend, but Macro closer than he's been for a couple of laps now in the toe. Roland Legg not worrying about driving the thing down the inside line. And Tim with a very good run. Hugely experienced racing car driver in all categories, not just in Formula 3. And really applying the pressure to Chris Anthony, who's doing a very nice job in defence.
That's the last lap, and you can drive defensively, providing you're not moving in the braking zone. So he's doing everything well within the rules. Chris Anthony will probably run those, so he's a fair way ahead now. He's sort of broken that toe of Tim Macro, is still pushing hard. Really, there's only one spot to make a pass, and that's down here at Dandenong Road, this part of the lap. I think he's not quite close enough.
Love that shot over the top of the hill when they tip in at full noise. Flat, Macro looking back to Roland Legg, back for a second year in the outright car. Huge amount of speed, and got his first race win last season. But he's back in the category, and Chris Anthony will get a win in race 2, the Australian Formula 3 Series at Sandown. Very good win under a lot of pressure from Tim Macro, the double champion. Cameron Shields, first in the national class. Shevington, after a slow start, finished that one 5th.
It was a really tough race. I'm glad to get the victory. I knew I had to get a good start because we were also close up in the front. So I got a good start, made it to P1 by the first corner, and I was just able to keep that gap and maintain the lead. And it was a really tough race, physically and mentally, just to keep Tim behind. And yeah, really good race for myself.
So the feature race will be, it looks like, between Tim Macro and Chris Anthony. The 2 of those will go at it at the front of the field. The big question is, can Roland Legg work his way forward from a little bit further down that DNF in race 1, really costing the youngster. But great pressure motor race, Cam, in race 2 between the 2 of them. Cameron Shields starting from the outside of the front row for McDonald's Gilmore Racing. Rookie driver, 15 years of age, from Toowoomba. Away we go. Good start, Macro. Wheel spin for Anthony from the second row. And this is Chris, so clean start for Macro. He drives away out in front. There's Roland Legg swerving his way forward. Lucky it's wide on the run down there to turn 1.
He's going to try and go on the outside, but had to relinquish. I thought that might be a little tricky out there, offline, in one of these cars, so slots into P3.
So Anthony up to second, which was what we want to see. We want to see the pressure between himself and Tim Macro. Big snap of opposite lock from Roland Legg. Midway through turn 4, so out the back straight for the first time. There's Nathan Kumar, followed by Shervington. Struggled to get that car off the line this weekend. And here's Cameron Shields over the top of the racetrack in the back straight.
What is it with drivers from Toowoomba?
I don't know.
Cameron Shields just joining the list of, Will Power, Jordan Lloyd, who's now off into the States, Will Brandon. They're all open wheeler races, so they breed quick ones up there.
There's something in the water. They'll name a street after Will Power up there soon, I'm sure of it. Maybe if he wins the Indy 500 this year. So this is Shervington, the M11 Miguel. Amazing bit of race car. Trent still very early in his wings and slicks career, still learning the ropes of these cars and getting faster with the guidance and coaching from Team BRM.
Yep, based in Sydney. The car lives in South Australia, so tries to get as much testing and familiarisation as he can. So Anthony can't quite make it all big lock up there. Probably just cost him a couple of tenths. You can see he used a little bit of road. So here's the onboard from Shields. Bogged down slightly. Initially had wheel spin, but then looked like it struggled off the line and Macro was gone.
Oh, he got split on both sides by Legg and Kumar, right and left. And down into turn 1, held his own. So it's Macro by half a dozen car lengths. The fight for second. Legg's locked the rears and he's gone. And he'll be beached there. No ground clearance in these cars. He'll be stuck on the curb.
He went in really deep and made a lot of ground on the turn-in phase to the corner, and there, you're right, Rich, so completely beached that car. Just wonder whether he just went in a little bit too hot. So have a look at the distance, and then as he turns in, closed right up, and then just lost the rear.
He went deep, as you said, and a big wobble at the front of the car. This will show it. Let's have a listen. Just grabbed the rears and around it went, slightly offline perhaps, but dicing for position, and that removes a leading contender. It's a massive shame. He was looking really good, Roland Legg. That's taken him out of the equation, and it's down to Macro and Anthony at the front of the field. His two-car team, McDonald's Gilmore Racing, Mark Ward from Macca's, heavily involved in that program now, and has brought young Cameron Shields up through Formula Ford last year with Brett Francis, very experienced operator, into F3 this year, and I think they've got plans to follow that US pathway potentially in the future. Shervington just in behind them, up the back straight.
Fantastic looking cars, no doubt, very striking, very well presented, and that open wheeler pathway, it's good to see another young 15-year-old coming through.
There's Anthony, went to Europe last year, Chris, young man from Cooma, who in the early stages of his career funded his motor racing by donations from the local community, the town of Cooma, up in the Highlands in New South Wales, heavily involved, worked at the Folks Video Shop, renting videos to help fund his car racing career at Super Slow-Mo down at Dandenong Road. Watch the cars work across the apex of the corner. So went to Europe last year, did a couple of rounds of Formula Renault, and he's got ambitions to go back there and race Formula 3 later on this season, but just came back to get some race miles and some experience in an equivalent car. But what about Tim Macro? His career stretched to 32 victories in Formula 3 now, 2 championships of course, and the reason Denny Rumble put him in this car was to help that team, brand new team, engineering base and learn how to develop and engineer one of these cars. It's worked a treat. And Macro will win the opening round of the championship at Sandown, a place he loves dearly, and that'll be a very satisfying win, holding out from pressure from Chris Anthony all weekend long.
And good support from Fitness to Podium. Those guys certainly are helping a lot of young drivers get specifically race fit for motorsport. So a good win by Tim Macro, who's been driving engineering, and good to see him back in having a drive again.
So Macro, Anthony, Shields, Shervington, Kumar, McAlpine, the Kumar Cup winner, and Roland Legg after the spin, P7.
The boys from Alpine made a few tweaks to the car, and it was fantastic. We got the start, and it was smooth sailing for a little bit until the safety car came out, and then I really had to work for it. We had a couple of moments during the race, but it all went pretty well.
So the points after the opening round of the Australian Formula 3 Series at Sandown. So Macro, Anthony, Shervington, and the remainder coming through. More coming your way from the Shannons Nationals at Sandown Australian Sports Racer Series up after the break.
It's actually a really good year for the sports races this year. For me personally, I've got a new engine. I got one off of Jason Macris because we had a few engine dramas last season, and the testing so far this year has gone really well with that new motor. For the actual sports races series, we've got the Radicals running with us as well. They've got a little bit more horsepower than us. They do weigh a bit more, but our lap times are very similar. We've also got the open wheelers, so we call them the Furman cars. We've got 3 of them this season, I believe, and then we've got the Wests as per last season. They've done some testing over the past couple of years, and we adjust the weights. So the cars with more horsepower carry a little bit more weight. The cars that have more downforce, they carry a little bit more weight, and it works out to be quite even. Round 1, we're really just looking for reliability. We've got the new motor in the car. The early season testing shows it performs really well. So if we can get through round 1 without any dramas, then that'll set us up well for the rest of the season. I'm just going to take it round by round, just going to try and place as well as I can each round, hopefully get a few wins along the way, and then let the championship sort itself out. In the past, we've focused a little bit too much on the championship, so we're just going to focus on each weekend as it comes.
The Australian Sports Racer Series back with the Shannons Nationals in 2016, and this year it's bigger and better than ever before. A whole bunch of Radical Cup cars joining the fun with the F1000s and the West sports cars. This is race 2. It's Josh Townsend starting alongside John Morris, the Victorian on the front row, and the Radical. A diverse field. Townsend slow away. That's Pete Johnston slow, and there's carnage in the back. Cam McConville alongside me, and 2 or 3 cars involved in a start line drama.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. It looked like there was a lot of wheel spin off the back. John Morris in car 34 there, he got a lot of wheel spin in the 2 Formula 1000s, slingshot into the lead. So not sure whether that will bring out the safety car or they can clear that mess and that debris out of the way.
Josh Cranston up into 2nd place in the F1000 West RFR. Very cool car. There's John Morris. So many different types of cars in the Australian Sports Racer Series. The constant is they all run the same controlled Kumho tyre, but it's a real diverse grid. Quite spectacular sight with predominantly motorcycle engine powered cars. That was a little bit of contact.
Yeah, and a very big commitment part of the circuit too. So it looked like Crampton saw him coming.
Whoa! Pete Johnston, he is having a dreadful lap and a bit of Sandown. Long-time runner in the Radical Cup, off the road and a long way, and hopefully he can drive out of Dandenong Road and get back on the racetrack. So an adventurous opening lap to race 2. It's Josh Townsend, the Queenslander, out in front. He raced this car at QR last year, one of the more remarkable races of the Nationals program last year, with 3 cars dueling for the lead on the final lap of one of their races at QR. And Josh had come from nowhere and managed to grab a race victory. It was remarkable stuff. His F1000 that was originally based on a Van Diemen Formula 4 chassis. So it's been converted. They've added the aero, motorcycle Kawasaki engine, I believe it is, in that car. And it's a quick little race car.
Gee, doesn't it sound good too? It's revving extremely high compared to, say, an F3 that we've seen as part of the Nationals so far this weekend. So a real mixture. John Morris looks like he's lost another spot there.
So that was West Sports Car Roger Ianson, the Adelaidean.
Oh, no.
Oh, big crush. Morris off the road at high speed. And that is a big impact. Big hit in his brand new Radical SR3 RX Cup car. So this is the start, Cam. Pete Johnston slow away. Oh.
Yeah, so it looks like they were just trying to occupy the same bit of road. So John Morris just lost the rear. He's done everything right. He's jumped on the brakes. Let's hope he's okay. He put his hands up to signal to the marshal he was. And that's a big accident.
And John is okay. We're hearing from the Race Solutions medical crew. He is all good. It's on for the lead. Roger Ianson working his way from the back of the field. Started this race in last. And through all the drama, has been able to carve his way through more cars off the road. And a big dust storm. It's Operation Desert Storm down there. Crampton, who's been in the thick of the action in this race, is stuck down the runoff at turn 1.
Yeah, he has. He's had a shocker, hasn't he? So I thought looked like it was one of the Wests and Crampton getting together.
And through all that, Ianson through into the lead. Townsend back to second place. So it's been a tremendous drive for Roger Ianson. Cranston now third. He and his brother Adam both supported this series the whole way through last year's championship. Down into turn 1, the two F1000s dicing. Lots of grip from these little cars, and that's a positional change.
And if you haven't seen these cars before, they're very big in WA, where they run a series. Oh, no! Another spin.
All on his own. I think he got the curb cam on the exit of turn 3. And he gets it fired up and drives away, but he's lost a chunk of time and had just wrestled second place away.
For these cars, you can still see there's quite a bit of aero, and just got up on the curb and lost the rear. So, wow, we've had it's a short race, but it's been an eventful one so far.
Mark Short. So, different specification sports racing. Now, this is turn 1. Let's unravel what happened here.
Oh. Okay, so Crampton came from a long way back. I'm not sure if he would have...
It was on Rob Knight.
If Rob, an ex-Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge racer, has stepped in to experience a bit of sports car racing. So I'm not sure whether Rob would have actually seen him. So this is Cranston. Just got on the throttle a bit early there, Rich. So actually stayed off the curb, but just got on the throttle quite early. Oh. And very lucky not to get T-boned there. And
Jason Macris just squeezed his way through there. So, dramatic race in the Australian Sports Racer Series here at Sandown. Chris Sutton, that is, in the wild-looking sort of fire and ice spec livery. It's like the FPR V8 supercars of a couple of seasons ago, isn't it? The Radical. Great to see a bunch of Radicals joining the field this weekend. Started with 18 cars this field this weekend, which is the best the series has seen in some time. There's been a little bit of attrition, most of it in this race, it must be said.
Yeah, and chatting to Adam Steer, it looks like there are more cars coming too as the season goes on, which is great.
The checkered flag, Ianson will win that race. Josh Townsend across the line in second. Macris through in third. Josh Cranston was fourth in the end in front of Mark Short. Jonathan Stokel, Drake, Sutton, Johnston and Piavitas rounding out the top 10.
It was quite good. We've got the reliability sorted in the car now. We found out what the issue was yesterday, so we've had a bit of a horror run the last 12 months, so it's good to finally finish a race and do it up the front.
So Cam, after a wild race 2 for the Australian Sports Racer Series, let's go back and have a look at what happened in race 3. Slow start for Josh Townsend on the front row of the grid, and that meant he had to work his way through the field.
Yeah, he did. He just bogged down off the line, but right down the inside and takes the lead at Dandenong Road. So a nice clean move in the F1000, but then it was back on again. Look at this, on the inside, and doesn't make it.
Jason Macris a little bit too hot, out over the curb and spun. And that basically ended any hope of a good race, and just pulling in front of John Paul Drake there. So this became the battle for the lead with Roger Ianson for the second time today, having to carve his way through the field. And that would ultimately be for the lead. Unfortunately, Jonathan Stokel pulled to the side of the road with massive smoke and fire coming from his west.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere, and not in a real hurry, so hopefully there's nothing too untoward there, not too much damage, but Townsend, very steady drive, took out the points for the weekend.
With Macris second, Mark Short in third place, Cranston, Johnston, Sutton, and the remainder coming through in the Australian Sports Racer Series. Well, that wraps up our coverage of round 1, Cam, but so much to look forward to in the Shannons Nationals. Phillip Island in May will be spectacular.
That last weekend of May, Rich, is a big one. So the GT Championship and the GT Endurance Championship. And we're also going to see for the first time the Australian Production Car Series there at the Shannons Nationals.
Head to thenationals.com.au for more info. We'll see you there.